Okay, well, thank you guys for being here. I just got the green light that most of you are on the platform and ready to go. So I'm just going to start by introducing myself for those of you who don't know me already. My name is AC Quintero or Alicia Quintero, and this is going to be a webinar on remote learning decoded, how to stay afloat while going remote. So just a few little things about me. I teach Spanish in Chicago. I'm a teacher. I'm an author and remote learning survivor, daily survivor. Okay. I feel like I'm on that TV show Survivor every time I log onto my computer. Well, I felt like that. And sometimes I still do, but I've developed some skills to kind of help manage that. I am on Facebook, AC Quintero. Also on Twitter, Clase Castellano. On Instagram, AC Quintero. Here, there is a little QR code to my website and blog, and below just some of the books that I've written for teachers who are teaching Spanish and also French. If you have questions, please put those questions in the Q&A section. I have a computer on the side, so if you see me turn to the side, I am actually looking for questions so that I can answer those during the webinar. Erin is with us, and she will be populating that Q&A or the chat section with links to things that I reference here. All right, well, let's get started. All right. So first of all, I want us to make sure that we think about the first thing that I had to sort of do myself when, getting my mind and wrapping my mind around this whole remote learning is big picture thinking. And what that is number one, this pandemic. It is scary for us, and it's even scarier for students. So that's the one thing I had to realize, because once we started going remote, I just felt like, oh my gosh, like there's so many things that I have to do. I have to get everything ready. I wanted my lessons to be so perfect. But at the end of the day, I had to sort of like take a step back and realize that, okay, that we are in a crisis. And right now I am managing this sort of e-learning with the circumstances and everything that's going on around me. And so, and in that, I had to recognize that everything that could go wrong actually would go wrong. So then I had to adjust my expectations. Also, I had to prepare myself mentally and emotionally for this massive undertaking every day. It really is a lot. Some people, and even some of my friends who are like not in, the education field or not teaching, sometimes they're like, oh, you guys have it so easy because you're doing remote learning. And it's pretty hard. It's hard because of the whole, ratio workload. You spend so much time putting these lessons together and so much time doing the research and putting things online. You may spend like an hour or 2 hours for an activity that's going to take 10 minutes, and then when that activity doesn't go well, we can kind of lose it, and so I just want to acknowledge some of those things. Erin, I don't know if you, excuse me for 1 second, is there a way for me to move the video to the other side, because it's kind of blocking some of my
Yes,
here.
you
Okay.
can grab it from the top and drag it to anywhere on the screen.
Okay. Oh, great. Thank you. Oh, that's awesome. Yay. Okay. Also, it is going back to the presentation. It is okay not to have everything together. You are not alone. For the first week, I thought I had everything together, but I actually didn't. So it was very hard, and I was kind of down on myself. I was kind of down on myself. And so this is something I just had to remember, like, it's okay. It's okay. And that I am not alone. Also, you have to pat yourself on the back. Whenever you log on to that platform, you showed up for the kids. So you can just stop right there. You showed up for the kids, and that's the most important thing. I do have a question about the presentation. All of the links that I'm going to be referring to in the presentation, Erin is going to provide. I'm not I'm not sending out the presentation per se, but everything that's pertinent to what I'm talking about will be provided through the links. All right, so setting up the workspace to work for you. So this is the first thing, the first one of my, tools that I use to sort of like hack remote learning. When I first started, I logged onto the platform. I didn't, I just thought like, hey, I'm gonna, talk to the students. I'm gonna give them an assignment. And I found myself I felt like I was in the matrix. Like I had all these, I was just like, wait, okay, I gotta give this kid is asking me a question. I gotta take attendance. How do I do that? Google Meet is not working. And it was chaos. It was chaos. And what I decided to do was I had to take a step back again. And I said, you know what? I had to do a needs assessment for myself, figure out what exactly I needed to be successful for that day. So I set up my space the night before. I have two computers. I have my computer and I have my work computer. I also have a phone, obviously, and I have an iPad. So I set up my, both of my computers. And if you don't have two computers, whatever you need, you just need to figure out what it is and just try to set it up the night before. I also have a binder. Here's my binder. I'll show you right here. This is my binder, and I have my schedule on my binder and also have our calendar. And this, it seems so simple, honestly. It's like, why didn't I think of this the first week, making sure that I have access to the calendar? Because every time I'm doing lessons for students, I need to refer to those calendar dates. And whenever given assignments, I always need to refer to calendar dates. And we have a very unique calendar at my school because we have block scheduling. So I had to, print out my calendar, put it on my binder. In my binder, and I'll show you guys my binder as well. In my binder, I printed out all of my materials that I will need. And this looks kind of thick. So it's only because I print out all of the emails from my principal. I print out all of the activities that I'm going to be doing with students. And this really helped me to avoid, number one, toggling between tabs. During class, I have all of my things printed. So if students had a question about something, I didn't have to share my screen with them per se. I could share my screen, but I didn't have to go to another tab on the platform, which kind of stresses me out sometimes. So I print everything out and I have it here. I also have a side table now. So before I didn't have a side table, I just had my desk, and that's where I'm presenting now. But because I had to make reference to so many things and I have two computers, I decided just to bring in a little foldable table, have it right here. I have my printer. So I just really have like my space set up. And this for me was like half of the battle. And obviously keeping my school schedule present. I refer to this so many times during class. So whatever that looks like for you, just making sure that the night before that you just really do a needs analysis and take into account everything that you will need before you start teaching. So if you're going to do demos for students, if you're going to do like a picture book or you're going to read to them, just make sure you have everything and you actually think through everything that you're going to do. All right, so next, I'm just going to move this down one more time. All right, so next is about simplifying schedules and routines. We are not in class, and I was talking to a teacher today. We were messaging back and forth on Instagram, and she was asking me about assessments and asking me about work. She's like, and I'm just like, okay, we have to remember we're not in class. Things are not going to go perfectly. We are not in class. This is crisis management, and we are trying to help manage a crisis, right? We are teaching in a pandemic. And that realization alone has really helped me. And I've just simplified things, and I simplified my routines. I have a very predictable routine every day that helps me and it helps my students, and I'm not leaving really exhausted. Now, I'm not going to say I'm never exhausted, because yesterday, although I only had 2 classes yesterday, so I had 2 blocks of office hours and I had 2 classes, and I don't know everything went perfectly, but I was just exhausted. I was so exhausted, even having everything together. So we have those days. Today I had most of my classes, And so one day I'll have like, I have 2 classes the other day because I teach 5 altogether, and we do block scheduling. So technically it's like 90-minute classes. So today I had like the heavier load, and I feel good. I can't believe I'm here doing this presentation because everything just kind of, it worked out. So unless otherwise stated by your district, don't teach for the duration of the online class. So in my district, in Illinois, well, Illinois is not my district, but in my state, the recommendation is that we're online with students 4 hours. And so our classes are broken down into 48 minutes. And so we have 4 blocks, and those 4 blocks we teach 48 minutes. And the first week I was online, like the whole, the duration of the class. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so exhausting. And then I realized, I was like, I don't necessarily have, I can stay online with the students and be available for the students, but I don't necessarily have to teach for the duration of the online class. And I'm going to get into like how that works. Okay. I decided to chunk my routines, and I keep the same schedule with all of my classes. And this has given me predictability, but also my students. So here's just a sample of my class schedule. And again, details are forthcoming. The first thing I do with my students is I do a mood meter check-in. Next, I do an introduction to the agenda. And I was using a PowerPoint for the agenda, but I decided that I'm not going to use that PowerPoint anymore. And I use the same unit overview that I gave students. So again, that's one less thing that I have to do. Everything is contained right on that unit overview where they have all of their class assignments. They have all of their links. Like, why am I creating more work for myself? I'm just going to use that. And that's what I did today, actually. And it went perfectly. I wasn't toggling between tabs. I wasn't trying to get to, I had started with Peer Deck, which I think Peer Deck is great. Pear Deck, sorry, I keep saying Peer. I think Pear Deck is great, but just for simplicity purposes, like today, I was like, you know what, whatever, we're just going to stick to the unit overview, and that's what we did. So maybe another class, if I'm doing a PowerPoint, then that's all we're going to do. We're just going to stick to that specific item, that mode of presentation, and that's it, so that I'm not going back and forth. Make time for 3 questions. So today, after I presented the agenda, I just asked, 3 students. I just asked for questions, and I'm only taking 3 because I don't have time for everyone to ask a question. And I'll stop in just a second. There are some questions that are being asked. So right after this slide, I'll address those questions. Assign work to students offline. Again, I'm going to get into how that looks for me. And then usually I reconvene and we'll talk about the assignment. I call in 3 to 5 students to share. All right, we have a question. Is your school following a normal schedule? So my school is actually on a block schedule. So in our normal classroom schedule is we have, there's a total of 8 classes, and we have 4 classes one day and 4 classes the next day. So it's like an A day, B day, it's a rotation. So today, for example, I had 3 of those 90-minute classes, but those classes were 48 minutes, okay? And then the days, the times that I'm not teaching, those are office hours, and I'm usually emailing parents, answering questions, or doing like placement testing or something that I have to do for my department. All right, so here's like the actual agenda, like for today. No, this was for the other day. Mood meter check-in. We review vocabulary from one of the tasks that we did. So I am going to talk about how I chunk those tasks. Read through the first portion of an article together, read offline, responded to questions, and then students checked in. So this is going to come at the end of the presentation, but you'll notice that, my tasks are super simple. Review vocabulary. The task that they had for this day was they were going to read an article. So I just read part of the article with them. They finished reading the article offline and responded to questions. They didn't have to turn it in that day. They had a few days to turn it in, and then it's graded. All right, so mood meter. I'm getting to the mood meter right now. That's a question. Teaching, meaning online, putting up materials, answering, grading assignments. Okay, I'll get to that at the end. Oh, grade levels. I teach high school, so I have Spanish 1, which are mostly freshmen. I do have a junior in there, but just one junior. And I teach Spanish 4, which is actually a combination of freshman through senior levels. All right, so here is an example of the mood meter check-ins. We had a question over here. This is the first few minutes. So this actually is from Profe Pistoles, Teacher Pay Teacher store. You can get, I have the link, it's gonna be shared in the chat, I believe. So I just took pictures. I just took pictures just so that you guys can see. She has a ton of these. So she has the ones with the sloths and also the llamas. And what these are, so normally in my class, we had color-coded mood meters. And this is what my school has been using for like a long time. And one of my colleagues actually created like this mood meter thing. So we have been using that in class. And so it was just easier for them, like since they used the mood meter in their English classes, they were all color coded. So they were able to like access that really quickly. Well, we don't have those mood meters. And I remember I bought this a while ago from Profe Pistole, sorry. I bought it a while ago, and I just think this is like so perfect for online teaching. In my class, we did use these before. I laminated them and I would pass them out to students when they come in. But now I just took little screenshots, and students can look at these and just add on like how they're feeling, okay? So here's how I use the mood meter. Once students are logged on, we do a mood meter check-in. So they can look, they have this in their notes. And while they're doing the check-in, I'm usually taking attendance. Attendance is super cumbersome for us on the Google Meet platform for reasons why I just don't even want to get into that, but it's super cumbersome and it takes longer than expected. So while they're doing their mood meter, which in the Google chat, because I use Google Meets, the students just type in me siento or estoy, and then they use one of these, okay? After, prior to, let me just back up a little bit. So prior to using me siento, they would always just use estoy, which means I am. But last week I introduced me siento. I just told them to swap me siento for estoy, and then they just started adding their feelings. And yeah, and they did that. And the cool thing in the chat is that everyone can kind of see how everyone else is feeling. If students don't want to share, obviously they don't have to. You can also call on students. You can have them maybe draw how they feel. You can have them show, especially if you have like the grid view, you can just have them show you how they're feeling. That's just one variation to do. But what I like about this is, number one, like we spend about 5 minutes on this. And I'm, able to really provide students with feedback. So if I have a student who identifies as female and is saying estoy emocionado, then I can say, oh, it's actually emocionada, So we kind of run through this every day, and it's just providing more input and giving them an opportunity to use their vocabulary. Another reason I like using this social emotional tool is that it helps students feel seen. And most students really like this check-in because most of the learning online has just been like me kind of talking at them, like what I'm doing right now, because we don't have that 90 minutes. So I'm still working on ways to incorporate, doing like mini conversations and things like that. So this is a really great opportunity for them. Again, they can write or you can have them share. I do kind of call on a few students and I have them share. So here's what this is what I created for students. And again, there are more in her packet. So I'll just add like a few more, and every week we're kind of like expanding our vocabulary with regards to adjectives of emotion. All right, so more questions. Okay, so we don't have any more questions about that. All right, anchor assignment. So one of the things that I've been doing that has really helped me is doing a lot of chunking, okay? When my colleagues and I were planning for our Spanish 4 class, because I teach that with 2 other amazing teachers. When we were planning, we just had all these ideas of, oh, let's do this, and let's give the students this activity, and then let's have them do this video. And I just realized, that wow, this is a lot of work for kids. This is a lot of work, and we want to set students up for success, and we don't want to burn ourselves out. Especially, I don't know how your districts are handling this, but we can't give any assignments. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. We can't provide any grades that are going to negatively affect students' average, right? So technically, if a student after quarter 3 or before we went on break, if a student had a B, then all the assignments given to that student have to kind of be in that realm of a B, right? And I realized that kind of works against incentivizing students, but I did work my way around that with the parents. I'll talk about that at the end. So those are just some of the realities, right? So one of the things that I decided to do was I decided to just do one activity. I call it an anchor activity, or the main activity. I do one anchor activity a week. And so since I meet with my students about 3 days a week, because we have the A-Day, B-Day, so it depends, some days, some weeks 2, some weeks 3, they'll have one anchor activity due, and then all the other activities are pretty much components or constituent parts of that anchor activity. So, and I'm going to show you an example in just a second. Oh, okay, good. Yes, I teach Spanish 1 and Spanish 5. So choose one anchor activity for students and then break it down into its constituent parts. Assign each part when you meet as a class, okay? So everything that you assign is pretty much going to empower students to do this one activity, okay? The parts of the assignments, obviously, it's going to provide students with like whatever insight or maybe context they need to actually tackle that big activity. And then students only turn in the anchor assignment, but we use class time to review and practice the other tasks. So here is an example of one of my anchor assignments. And this actually is not going to be in the, this is not going to be linked because, so my students have a copy of this magazine. This is from ¿Qué tal? I'm sorry, this is Mary Glasgow Scholastic in Spanish. And one of the activities that students had to do is, since we could not, our principal wanted us to start with something that students were really familiar with, which made sense. So we just finished doing, learning about like classroom vocabulary and talking about our school schedules. And so they read this article here, Bienvenida a una clase diferente. And you can find, there are tons of articles. There is a thread, which is COVID-19 world language, I think WL. There are a lot of free activities there. I have some activities that are free, and those links are going to be included as well. So you don't necessarily need this. You can do this with any activity. But so you've already seen what the text looked like. So students had to read. There's like 2 pages here. Okay. So I'm just going to go through what my activities, like how my class was structured during that week. And just so you know, I am looking at the questions as we go. So what is the name of the site where you can get the mood meter? Oh, the mood meter site is Teachers Pay Teachers, and the store is Profe Pistoles. And again, that's going to be included in the notes, okay? So there's a llama one, and then or llama, sorry. and there's also one with the sloth face. Those are going to be included. All right, so day 1 activities. First thing I did was the mood meter. Review the agenda. I did sort of like a little picture talk, right? So I showed them this and I asked them little questions and had students respond. I had them write 7 words associated with class. Okay, so if you think about it, those first 2 activities, these are just like, these are like buffer activities. These are activities that really to introduce the anchor activity, to kind of get students thinking about those words. And then I had them write 5 things that they think could take place in this classroom, okay? So again, this was related to what they had already been exposed to. And we just played around with that. I had students share out. That was it for day one, okay? I did not give them the reading for day one because that is my anchor activity, and everything that I'm doing is actually leading up to that, okay? So that was it for class. For day two, we did our mood meter check-in, review the agenda, review vocabulary words associated with the article. So I just like went through the article, pulled out some vocabulary words, and then we actually went over those words, you know, in class. I had students, so after the first like 10 minutes, they had the list of words, and I told them to turn off their cameras and also to mute their mics, and that they were going to work kind of offline, but not off the platform, for about 20 minutes. And all I had to do was write, you know, definition of those words, okay? That activity probably could have taken like 10 minutes in class, but I just give them like extra time, right? Because they need time to find, even though this is like our second going into third week, I still have kids that are like, I don't know where my mic is. I don't know where to do this, you know? So I just kind of give them time, and I don't know their environment, their home life. So I give them extra time, right? And then the only thing they had to do coming back was use one of the words in a sentence, okay? So after they did that, they used one of the words in the sentence. Notice I didn't even give them the article yet. That is something, yeah, I didn't give them the article yet because that's going to be like the last thing that they're going to do, right? Like according to sort of, you know, how I want to sequence the learning. Let me move this little thing again. Oh, good. And also just want to, some of the words that I gave them, I forgot to mention this, and this little bar is blocking, so I'm going to have to kind of move this around just a little bit. So I gave the vocabulary words that I gave them words that were like already, verbs that were like already conjugated. So like I gave them enseña, reciclamos, just exactly how they would encounter those words in the article. And it helped a lot. It helped a lot. And they had already had previous exposure to like structure of words. Like when I'm talking about myself and a group of people and we're together, we're going to use the plural, the first person plural version of the word. All right, so day three activities included mood meter check-in. So every day, and this is something that they're learning, review the agenda. And this time I'm actually introducing the article, okay? So today was the day that they were gonna actually read the article and answer the questions. So I actually read the first part of the article to them. And as I read, I stopped and I asked specific questions and I called on specific students. One of the things that I realized on this platform is very rarely do I just throw a question out. I usually have a name attached to that question, and I'll let them know right before. So today, for example, right while I was teaching my level 1 class, I knew that I had a few questions that I was going to ask, and I would just call out student's name. I'll say, okay, Betty, the next question is going to be for you. That way, Betty can actually locate her mic. She can make sure she has that activity pulled up. Sometimes students are doing other activities when they're in your class, right? So I give them that space, that opportunity, and it also keeps students on their toes, okay? So I read the first half of the article and I asked them questions about the different words, and to my surprise, most of them actually got the questions right, okay? And then I had them finish offline and then respond to the question. So again, I had them just mute their mics and also their cameras. I had them work offline, and then I just called them sort of back to order 5 minutes before, you know, class is going to conclude. Now, while they're working on that, what am I working on? So I'm maximizing my time. I'm either looking at assignments that they did the day, the previous class. I'm putting in grades. And that's pretty much all I have time to do, okay? I do that, and we only, in my district, we're required to put in, or my school, because our district gave every school autonomy to decide how they wanted to roll out this, you know, remote learning. So that's kind of why we have the schedule that we have. And I'm just, I give them sort of accurate and true feedback on their on the Google Classroom when they submit it. But in Gradebook, I do follow the rules. So if they got below whatever their average is, I have to bump it up so that they can kind of keep their average. But I am giving them true feedback on Google Classroom and showing them what they did wrong, because it is what I've been communicating to them and also the parents. It's about proficiency, not grade. So that's kind of been my argument, by the way. When students are not completing assignments because they're like, well, you can't do anything to my grade, I have a nice little email that I send and I say, yeah, this is true. You cannot get penalized. However, you are not going to be on top of your game next year. And I also tell parents that everyone else is completing the assignments, so they're going to have a competitive edge next year, and your kid isn't. Now, I say that in nicer language, of course. All right, so let's keep it moving. Let me just look at some questions. Are the readers in your store available online or in print form? So my readers, I'm actually working to get them online, but they are still in print. I do have a lot of short stories that are just as good, that have been well reviewed on Teachers Pay Teachers. And the stories are super cheap, by the way, too. They're, usually they're like $2 or $3. For level 1, I have a lot of stories actually surrounding this topic, like classroom vocabulary. There is en la papelería. I can't speak today. I have a lot of stories dealing with technology too, like caray. Mi abuela tiene móvil inteligente, so my grandmother has a cell phone. That's a really funny one. So my store will also be linked if you guys want to see. I do have some free stories too. I have one that I made free today. It's called La Vecina Chismosa, so like the nosy neighbor. And then El Profesor Estudioso, that's a super short one, and is really good for teaching like first person verbs. All right, I have a bigger question that I'm probably gonna have to get to later, but it says, how do I get Spanish punctuation while typing? I don't know if you're talking about typing here, but I would probably Google that. They have, ¿Qué tal magazine? So I think they actually have a trial. So if you Google Mary Glasgow Spanish, they have a free trial where you can download some of their PDFs from their websites, and they have a lot of nice stuff. Like I've been working with this company for a while. Like the magazines, I don't know if you can get them, but I do know they have great online resources. And I know that during this COVID period, they will have some free stuff for teachers. All right, how do they, let's see, do you have Chrome? Oh, I think someone's answering a question. So also I want to mention that I do have one reader that you can access, and that's through Voces Digital. It's called El Último Viaje, but it's for upper levels. It's for level 3 and above. Voces actually has a free trial through July. So if you want to get like readers or materials, I actually use a lot of their stuff from Voces as well to supplement what I'm doing online. The cool thing is, so you can, if you don't have time to like log all of your students in, if you have the password, you can go in and you can actually, I think you can save some of the articles, and then you can give them to students that way. I know that's kind of how I did it in class sometimes. I know I should probably do things more digitally, but sometimes I would just print it out because it was easier for some students because they do everything online. So that can be an option as well. Okay, so moving on. So day 4, so I just kind of have all of these out. Day 4, so again, this is all around this sort of like anchor activity that I have. And I'm not like, I'm not overwhelming myself thinking about all these new activities that I have to create. Because at the end of the day, I hate to say it, but I don't know how it is in your district, but I just don't want to run myself to the ground for, work that a lot of times students, because of the situation, are not valuing as much. And I do ensure that each activity is sufficiently explained, sufficiently scaffolded, so that they have no barriers whatsoever in completing the activities. And as a result, I have like maybe a 90% submission rate, because at the end of the day, it's like, wait, like, this is so easy. I can't not do it, So again, mood meter activity, right to, so here's my, day 4 activity. So after all of this, after I've graded everything, the next activity is going to be write 10 sentences about your ideal class. And that activity will be in the notes. I do have that, so I'll include that in the notes. And then I'll have 4 students share about their ideal class. And we actually did this today. So students, they wrote a few sentences. They didn't finish. I just happened to do half the activity online, and then they have half for homework. And I provided sort of like the scaffolding for them. So I gave them directions. They had like an instruction sheet, which will be included. They had an instruction sheet. There's 4 sections. And the first section, they have to talk about at what time would their ideal class start, because that refers back to us reviewing time, because that's what we did right before we left, right? After that, they had to say how students will be engaged in their ideal classroom. And they had 5 sentences, and I had the sentence stems there, los estudiantes, and then they had a little blank, and then what those students are going to do. I included in that instructional document, I also included verbs that we had already gone over, and they could also use new words that they learned here. So since this article was about like this ideal class, this amazing teacher in Spain and all the great things that he's done, students are sort of carrying on that theme, and they're doing writing. So for my day 5 activity, they will listen to someone talk about their ideal class and respond to questions. So guess who they're probably going to listen to? Moi. I'm just going to write 6 sentences about my ideal class. Like en mi clase ideal, los estudiantes escuchan todos los días, okay? And I'll just record that. I'll put it on the platform, and students will answer a few questions, okay? Day 6, after doing the mood meter and the agenda, what would your ideal schedule look like? What would your ideal uniform look like? So I'm adding like a little bit of fun here, right? So students are going to be working on, what their ideal schedule is going to look like, right? So again, they're reviewing all of the class subjects. They're reviewing time, and I just give them, I'm not creating a whole bunch of stuff around this. I'm just saying, create your ideal schedule, make sure you have 5 classes, include the times. That's it, okay? And then they get to draw their ideal uniform. So their school ideal school has to have a uniform, and then they get to draw that. And we haven't done that yet. That's what we're going to do. And then I'm just going to have them show like what their ideal uniform looks like. And that's going to be the end of this unit. And then we're probably going to move on to something else. All right. So let me answer some questions here. Okay. So how do you make students be on the FaceTime? So I use Google Meet, and I did have a few, let me just read the question. Sorry. How do you make the students be on FaceTime during assigned class? Some of them don't show up. So I know I do have a few students who are no-shows, and every system is different. Every school system is different. Every school is different. And we have counselors in our school, so I have reached out to the counselors. But I ask them if they're comfortable to show their camera, if they're comfortable. Now, just like teachers have different, working, home environments, I can't make them do that. I can't make them do that, but what they can do is they can, let's say this is say this is the activity, they can just, like, if they're showing me their uniform, they can just kind of do this, okay? And they just show their uniform and they can take their camera off. So I would probably instruct them on how to do that. And I would also model it, because a lot of times, they don't know how to do this stuff. And even though they're digital natives, and most teachers like myself, I call myself a digital immigrant because I didn't really grow up with technology. This was all kind of introduced to me in high school. I just find that maybe because I'm an adult and I have the skills and I kind of problem solve, I'm a quick study when it comes to figuring things out. And sometimes they're not. And I'm like, it's so weird because they're on video games all day. They do all this, extra stuff. So I would just kind of show them, or kind of just, maybe ask them to send you an email if they have any concerns about, taking their, camera off. All right. So our district is not allowing synchronous learning. So all activities and assessment must be conveyed. Oh, wow. Okay. This presents a challenge. Sorry. All right. So maybe conveyed asynchronously. This presents a challenge for front-loading assignments and posting at the beginning of the week, as well as backloading, having to grade toward the end of the week, and also planning. Okay, does anyone experience anything similar? All right, so my school was doing this for the first couple weeks. And like my only suggestion, well, I don't even know if it's a suggestion. It was really hard because not all students were on, the platform. And what I ended up doing was just reaching out to students and reaching out to parents. I just created, something very specific to like my classes. Since I teach 2 classes, I have like, a Spanish 1 and a Spanish 4, and I just have like an email that I copy and paste. And if I notice the students are not turning things in, I'll just email the parents and the student and just say, first, I hope everything is well. This is a wellness and, I put wellness and attendance check, or wellness and, assignment follow-up. I always just start by stating, I hope that, you all are well. And, if anything has come up, please let me know. And I do list that you're getting this email because you haven't turned in, 2 or more assignments. So I keep it very generic so that I can just send it like a mass, BCC email to all the students that are missing. I did have some luck with that with one student who wasn't showing up and wasn't completing the work. I emailed that and his father emailed me right away and said he's going to turn it in. So that's, if anyone else wants to answer that or has another suggestion, be my guest. All right. So what do you think of flagoo.com? I haven't used, oh wait, that just went down. Oh gosh. Oh, so flangoo.com. I haven't really used stories in class, but would like to begin to make the shift. And I think now is a good time to try. So I'm unfamiliar with the website. I am considering doing like a little storybook with my students. And again, if I do a storybook, it would be super scaffold, I probably won't, let's say that 3-day period, the first day, I'm probably gonna, do my mood meter again. I'll introduce some vocabulary, to the story, maybe even ask them what they think the story's about. I'll show them a picture, I'm not gonna really get into it right then and there. And then the next class, I'll kind of like read and maybe have them write down some familiar words, words that they heard, and they don't necessarily have to be spelled correctly, or, and we'll just talk about that, because the goal here is, this is a lot of work for me as a teacher, even just setting things up. So I'm just trying to provide activities that, aren't work heavy for me, not a lot of heavy lifting. The heavy lifting is going to be me teaching and maybe asking questions. So I would probably, if I do like a picture book with just minimum text, that will probably take me about 2 days to do, because I want to do all the front loading activities first. All right, so how are students entering their answers in the mood meter? Oh, so I just have them, so we do Google Meets, and they can enter on the chat. So I just have them do like the chat feature. They just enter how they feel, but I also call on about 5 students. This is something else that I wanted to bring up too before the webinar is over, because we do have about 15 minutes and I am kind of going through and answering questions as well. So I want to include a little bit more speaking, okay? And what I did yesterday with my Spanish 4 class is, with that class, I decided to, every time we meet, I want 5 students to share something, okay? And so this, like with the mood meter, for example, I can do that as well. I can have students share in the Google chat feature, and I also can call on 5 students to share, and I can ask them questions, and everyone else is listening. And that's it for them. So they're probably not going to be interviewed like that for another 4 classes, right? 4 or 5 classes, depending on how many students are in each class. So that's something I want to kind of start incorporating, because I feel that it's just so didactic. It's me talking and doing all the scaffolding and explaining everything. And I want to include just a little bit of student voice. Now, again, going back to, we're not in class. So in class, I probably would try to, in 90-minute period, I would probably aim to speak to 15 students, but that's not going to happen. So just to incorporate a little bit more of students' voice and have them practice a little bit more, that is what I'm going to do. I also failed to mention that with this activity that they have, my colleague introduced me to a website called speakpipe.com, speakpipe.com. And students also can use just the regular, here, let me show you, the regular just memo on their phone, like the voice memo. I'm going to have students record their thoughts about their ideal classroom. So those sentences that they read, they're going to record and they're going to talk like they're having a conversation with me, and they're going to say, mi clase ideal tiene 2 estudiantes, So that's something that I'm going to have them do. But prior to doing that, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to record myself talking about my ideal class, different from the other listening, so that they can listen to my inflections, so they can listen to how I'm introducing the topic, and they can imitate that. And that's going to be sort of like their, speaking activity. All right. My school, 2 dozen. Let's see. My school. Okay. I think this is an answer to questions. Okay. Good. This was an answer to a question. All right. Let's see if we have any. All right. So someone else asked about readers available for posting. So the only reader that's like available right now is through Voces. I'm working on getting my other readers, on a digital platform, but I do have short stories. I do have short stories on Teachers Pay Teachers. I actually so these are some of the short stories. This is a short story book, but I actually have these on Teachers Pay Teachers. This is called Enredados, like students kind of entangled in like social media. And these 3 stories are actually on Teachers Pay Teachers. So La Cita Inolvidable, that's one. This is for upper grades though, upper levels, because like that one's about internet dating, like internet date gone bad. It's like really crazy. And the one about the abuela who gets a cell phone. And then the other one is No Pasa Nada, which is about the importance or the dangers of like sharing too much personal information and pictures on social media. PG, don't worry. Okay, let's see. Can you explain your levels? Level 3 in my school is mostly novice, high, peak, and intermediate. Okay, so my level, this is a question about levels. So can you explain levels? Level 3 in my school is likely novice, high, peaking into intermediate, low. I think it's probably the same in my school as well. And I can already tell like some language skills kind of like atrophy during this period, like talking to my level 4 students. And even just some of like the mistakes, like some of the mistakes that they made during like our conversation, I just thought like, wow, it's almost like they kind of regressed to the beginning of the school year. So I think our level 3, I know our level 4 definitely we said that the range starts at novice high. So that's for level 4, that the lowest sort of lowest rung of students, or the lowest level would be novice, and then like intermediate low is kind of where the bulk of the students are. Okay. Oh, this is the almost next to the last slide we have here. So you guys remember I talked about Mi Clase Ideal, one of the activities that I gave for my students. It was like writing about their ideal classroom. And again, it was all connected to this. So this is the assignment that I gave them today. So notice this is like the instruction sheet. And then here is their actual assignment, and it's 15 points because we can only do formative assessment. So this would be like a writing assessment. And you'll see the numbers, like I have everything numbered here so they know how many points they'll get. So the first activity that they had to do, section A, was they had to write at what time would their ideal class start. And here I gave them examples. Mi clase ideal empieza a las 4, termina a las 4, so it begins at 4 and it ends at 4:20. So my ideal class is 20 minutes. But I told them that their ideal class could not be less than 40 minutes because I already knew that some students were going to say my ideal class is 1 minute. And then here, as I was teaching them, students were asking questions, so I just kind of included notes here, you know. And then for the section where they actually had to write about their classmates, I just highlighted appropriate verb and verb endings, and I gave them specific examples about that. So just to recap, you know, that's the goal is to find sort of like this like anchor activity and build everything around that. All right, so lastly, I actually have a free resource that I wanted to share with everyone. And this free resource also can be found on Teachers Pay Teachers. It's a limited free resource, meaning that it's been free since like the mid-March, and it's gonna be free through April, okay? And this is something that you can use for your class. So if you, some of you were asking about my readers, and this, you know, some of you asking about my readers, and so I don't have my readers online per se, but this is a free resource that that can be used with or without the reader. Okay, so that means that all the activities in this resource can be used with the video that's provided. So this video is actually on YouTube. It is La Clase de Confesiones, and it's like a 3-minute video. It's super cool. And again, everything from the video, everything in the activities is video specific. So, you know, if you're like, wait, you know, we don't have any money, I can't do any of that, don't worry about it. There's a lot of free resources out there. I'm just mentioning everything, okay? So here's where you can find it. It's on Teachers Pay Teachers. My store is Teaching Spanish Made Easy. It is free. It's in French as well. And Spanish has 14 activities. I can't remember how many activities it has in French. I want to say it has like 10 to 14 activities. And the video, again, the video is on YouTube. And just to give you an example of some of the activities, you can kind of see them here. There are very specific questions for the video, but then there's a lot of follow-up activities that students can do. Like, you know, this activity here is talking about the clothing that the students are wearing in the video. And it's super simple. It's true or false. Students look at the questions and then they, you know, they just answer, you know, true or false. Here, this other activity, this is looking at the video and then matching the statement that corresponds with the picture, okay? There are a lot of activities like this. There's even a little short story that I created that's called, I think it's called La Casa de Confesiones. And it is kind of like, it's a prelude to the book. But again, it's self-contained, meaning that you do not have to have access to the book. You do not have to read the book in order to benefit from this resource. And I would say this resource would be probably good for like maybe Spanish 1 or Spanish 2. I think the activities with sort of like the method that I mentioned here could last probably up to maybe a week and a half if you have to teach every day. And the video is super engaging. It's really cute. So, you know, have fun. It was professionally done. So you can have fun with that. All right, so we're nearing the end here. Again, if you want to connect with me, I am on Facebook, I am on Twitter, I am also on Instagram, and I hope that this has been worthwhile for you. I hope that, this has given you some ideas on how you can stay afloat while going remote, and just really at the end of the day, not stressing out. You are doing a great job just for showing up and caring about your students. And I think the important thing is to make sure that after that experience, after we show up for our students and we do the best that we can, that we still have something left for ourselves and for our families, so that we can be mentally and emotionally strong for them, right? Because, teaching is sort of like half the battle. All right, we have a few more questions here. So if you have to go, it was nice meeting you. If not, I'm going to just go through a few more questions here because we have 5 more minutes. All right, I'm actually teaching Portuguese. Do you know if Mary Glasgow has anything in Portuguese or any other resource? I'm not sure if they have. I've been on their website enough to say that I do not remember seeing anything in Portuguese. I know they have it in French, they have it in German, they have it in English. So those of you who teach English as a second language, and they have it in Spanish. I haven't seen anything in Portuguese. Oh, have you tried Flipgrid? This sounds perfect for your ideal class activity. You can model that video too. I have tried Flipgrid, and I'm still debating. The only reason why I'm debating about whether I want to use it is because I am really trying to simplify, and I don't want to use I know it will be beneficial for students, but I know it will also add a degree of complexity. And so I'm just trying to keep everything super, super simple. So far doing the grid speaking, like I had to do, a student had to make up an activity yesterday, and we just had a conversation in front of the classmates, and it went fine, so I'm going to experiment with that first before I move on to Flipgrid. But I know my coworker is using Flipgrid and she absolutely loves it. I just don't want to add any, sort of extensions to what I'm doing right now. But that's not to say that I have ruled it out. Thank you for posting the link. You are welcome. You were so helpful. Thanks for all the resources. You are welcome. Let's see. Any more questions? Oh, for a certificate, I am unsure how that works. So you may want to reach out to the host of this webinar, Teacher Discovery, or I'm sorry, for Voces and Teacher Discovery, Erin. She's facilitating the video. So you can, she'll probably see your question and respond to that. For ideal, what structure are you asking for? Oh, okay, good. So they're not doing subjunctive, they're not doing subjunctive. They're not doing conditional. They're just writing they're just stating in the indicative, like what their ideal class is. So they're not even using mi clase ideal for some of the sentences. It's just assumed. So they're doing los estudiantes ayudan a otros estudiantes. So that's kind of how we're doing it for level 1. Good question. Good question. Let's see. Oh, you could have them post their drawings of the ideal uniform. Oh, on Padlet. Okay, and they can comment on each other. Just an idea. Thank you so much. That's a great idea. That's a great idea. I'm going to see how it goes with just doing it on our platform and I'm aware of Padlet. I've used Padlet before, but again, I'm really trying to keep it simple, but that sounds like a great idea. I think like after the first couple weeks, I may kind of reconsider adding things once we're like in a really good groove. But right now I'm a little scared because I have had students say, oh, I can't find my mute button. And so that's alarming to me. I'm like, the mute button is right there. I see it, so, and some kids are kind of nervous. Okay. Are you working with 25 kids via distance learning? Okay. So my class sizes. So most of my classes are 30. My first class, I have about 30 kids, and 2 of those kids are blind. So I provide extra, support for them. I normally record everything that we do beforehand, and they use a Braille touch. So that's something that I kind of incorporate. And yeah, most of my classes are more than 25 actually. I have two classes that are under 30, and one is about 20 students, the other one is 21 students. But the rest, the other three classes, they're over 30. Wait, do you have reading activities for Spanish levels and levels 3 and 4? Again, there's Voces Digital, so you can look for El Último Viaje. That story is free and it's a really engaging story. I haven't met anyone who hasn't liked that story. And then I do have some stories on Teachers Pay Teachers. I have some free stories, so check those out first. And then I do have some that are on like technology, and they come with activities, by the way, just so you know. They all come with activities. Well, it's been really nice meeting you guys. And if you have any questions, just include them in the appropriate box, and then I will try to get those questions that were not answered. Muchísimas gracias. Adiós.